So this is a LinkedIn Live coming to you from the metaverse. This is really trippy. Bear with us. This is the first time we did this particular metaverse through Rove. And what we want to talk about today is this. And it's weird because I'm going to talk like this is normal, but meanwhile, you're looking at a bored ape who's chomping on a cigar, and you see our avatars and my little puppy. And yeah, it's really trippy, but I think this is super cool. So basically, what I talk about today, I'm sure you've already heard that Amazon in Staten Island, where my wife is from, formed a union. Starbucks, Manhattan, New York City, union. Things are changing. And let me take a step back. Last week, I'm not sure if you've heard of it. If you've heard this happen, Applebee's. We're all familiar with Applebee's. And there was this exec from one of the franchisees. You know how these big, food chains, these big restaurant chains, they have corporate owned ones, but then they also have franchisees, but then you have mega franchisees that own a whole lot. So for this mega franchisee, now check this out. So this guy sends an email to all the execs being really super giddy about it, saying, hey, with higher gas prices and inflation, people are going to be freaked out and worried, and we can get them and pay lower wages. Isn't that great? Isn't that fantastic? Because they're going to have to pay more for gas, more for food. So they might have to take 2 jobs. And if they need to take 2 jobs, they're going to come to us and we're going to pay them less money. I'm not, if you think I'm making this up, I am not. If anything, I'm downplaying a little bit. Now, Mike, Unadi, Christina, how tone deaf is that in today's day and age to put out in writing? Now, I can understand, bunch of folks in corporate shooting the breeze, coming up with ideas. Some are good, some aren't. But can you imagine putting in writing and sending it out there? Because we all know if you put it in writing, somehow someone's going to put it out there. Really basically saying, F you to the workers. We're going to try to screw you over and pay you less because we're high inflation, high gases, and things aren't well. Christine, what do you think of that?
When you first start out reading it, you think like, oh, this guy sounds great because he's like, we have to have the pulse on the morale of our employees. And you think, wow, he wants to have his finger on the pulse of like the morale of his employees to help them. But then you very easily realize he's talking about exploiting them, which is terrible. And just to say that inflation is a good thing, gas prices are a good thing. People will have to work more hours. They're living paycheck to paycheck, and then we can bring them in at lower prices. It's terrible.
You know what also was which is really weird and tone deaf and not too bright, is that it goes both ways. So this guy clearly didn't take an economics class in school because he's counting on the fact that people are going to be hard pressed for money, so they're going to do whatever they have to do. But if gas prices go up, and they have been going up, wouldn't families opt to say, maybe we're not going to go and drive to a restaurant? If prices are increasing, they may say, well, why are we going to go to Applebee's? Is it really worth it to drop $50, $100 for a family and the food is okay and we pay the gas? Is it worth it? Let's not. And the food prices for the food chain are going to go higher because all food is higher. So if it goes higher, people say, wait a minute, this is so expensive. Maybe I'll go to McDonald's instead, or maybe we'll just make a meal at home. So he'd even look at the other side of the equation, that on one side, yeah, he feels people are going to come in on the cheap, but on the other side, it's going to impact the bottom line of the revenues and the profits.
And within that same equation also, he didn't consider the take-home pay. So if employees are working at it from a low wage, it's not going to be worth the commute to work if you're taking away less pay than what you make in a day.
Exactly, right? It's just, the whole thing doesn't make sense.
It's almost, I think it's almost as if he wrote it to perhaps sabotage, or maybe expecting other employees who saw this internal memo to, respond and say just what we're saying, like, wait a minute, what's going on? Because here's one other thought. is that if he starts to decrease the hourly pay to the workers, he's going to lose employees. Then whoever still does decide to spend the extra gas and more money and higher prices at Applebee's, they're going to get worse service and the place is just going to implode.
Yeah, that's a good point. Right, right. So the employees might say, you know what, maybe I want a job that I don't have to commute to, that I don't have to drive to. And it's a really sad commentary. But this leads to the next part. Because of that, not just because of the Applebee's situation, because of that mindset. Recently, I think it was Friday, that Amazon in Staten Island, which has a huge facility out there, voted to go union. And this is groundbreaking. What do you think of that, guys?
And the fact that it was the culmination of 2 years, like these people assembled and organized throughout a pandemic, it goes to show what you can get done during the pandemic and how motivated people were. People either voted by forming a union or they voted by walking out the door with their feet. So
yeah. And plus the company spent so much money and in so many ways by putting like ads all over the warehouse and where the employees work and say their locker rooms. They spent so much to try to counter and make them vote anti-union, and that didn't work. As you said, Christine, in spite of the pandemic, they did all that work, but clearly they were trying to block that and do the best they could. So big tech, takes a loss over the employees and what really matters.
yeah, last year they spent $4.3 million to go with what you were saying. And like in a Department of Labor filing, consultants said they were paid $3,200 a day to union costs, which is just a slap in the face to employees. It's like, you can't pay us more, but you can pay these consultants $3,200 a day to union bust.
Well, I guess because what happened, they must be running scared, because if you have these unions, that means they could kind of demand higher wages, more time off, better benefits. So all of a sudden, the cost is going to go up, for the company. And, Jeff Bezos, he doesn't have that much money. So he only has like $1 trillion. So it's really going to hurt. I mean, he only has a couple of super yachts, I think. I don't know how many. So that's going to be really rough. I mean, it's pretty tough. It's going to be belt tightening house at the Bezoses. This happens.
The quote from Chris Smalls, who is like the president and organizer of this all, he had said, "We want to thank Jeff Bezos because while he was up in space, we were signing people up," which I thought was so funny.
Yes. And I believe I saw that person, Chris Smalls, was a former employee who got fired by trying to start some union rumblings or something, if I'm not mistaken.
He was leading this union, right? This story is so wild, right? So he's trying to get this union going. And it goes even back to before even union. He scheduled a walkout from this location, and it's, from what I understand, it's really enormous in Staten Island. And for those who aren't familiar, Staten Island is a borough of New York. So New York has 5 boroughs: Brooklyn, Queens, New York City, Staten Island, and I don't know, maybe I mixed something up, Queens. And I should know it because I grew up and spent most of my life there. And Staten Island is kind of like the suburbish part of New York City, even though it's not really a suburb, but it feels a little bit more suburbish. And they just have this massive warehouse and fulfillment center. And during COVID, Smalls was complaining, saying that, hey, we don't have the appropriate protocols. And if you remember, really at the beginning of the pandemic, that's what everyone was worried about. Like, wait a minute, you're making us do work. We don't have masks. We don't have gloves. We don't have this. It wasn't just Amazon. It was everywhere. And he led a walkout. So even before the union, there was that tension brewing, and it kept growing and escalating. And then as it was going on, there's a talk about like Applebee's sending an email. So there's documents that was leaked from senior executives at Amazon, basically saying, hey, and you can't make this up, saying this guy, Chris Smalls, is not too bright. He's kind of dumb, kind of stupid. So let's focus on him and not on the whole union effort. So if we could kind of be, and I'm paraphrasing, this isn't exactly what they said, I'm paraphrasing. So if we could kind of discredit him, it could discredit the union and put a whole kibosh on it. And of course it leaked out. So again, what is up with these execs who don't know how to not put things in writing that's going to come back and bite them?
And then they just severely underestimated them because it's kind of, I think it's not unprecedented, but there's not many other cases where this was like a grassroots union
Mhm.
effort, because it wasn't
Yeah.
through a big organization. It was just through the Amazon labor union. They had formed their own. So this is pretty unheard of. So Chris did an amazing job considering.
Right, it's wild. It's so now what we wrote about today in Forbes was that Starbucks already had a couple of locations, one out in Arizona, a couple of up in Buffalo, and now here in New York. But I think this is like their big one in New York. That's like their flagship, where it has, what is it called, like a roastery, where I guess they kind of, not only serve coffee, but just like have these amazing, like when you have those beer bars that make the beer themselves in the place. So I guess they have all the stuff that's making the coffee there. So it's like what, 23,000 square feet or something
Yeah,
ridiculous.
nearly 100 employees as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they voted as well, voted union. We're unionizing. Now, what do you think of that? It's because Starbucks is really well known for taking care of their employees and giving really nice benefits.
I wonder whether it's Amazon or Starbucks we're talking about, or if this continues to snowball a bit, what will be the result 1, 2, 3 years from now? Basically, do you think, looking at like studies when the auto workers and the iron work, like in America's labor history, once the unions happened, what were the pros and cons? How did it affect the consumers overall? I wonder if there's a clear trend. Did it increase prices, et cetera? Did quality go down? Things like that. Any thoughts?
But what do you think?
I don't really know. As you said, Starbucks, interesting, specifically looking at them. As you said, they are known for taking care of their employees. So once the employees now have a union and more sway and power, I suppose naturally you'd think it would lead to higher wages. But if it leads to that and the employees are happy, then the profit margins will be squoze unless the cost is passed on to the consumer.
See, that probably happens. Like I remember as a kid, to answer your question, where I remember my parents talking about where all like the big car makers, they all, had unions, and then everyone would, and it used to be like American cars were the best. So they said, when I was a kid here, I always heard that, buy American, they're better cars, the Japanese cars are terrible.
Yes.
And then you had these unions, and all of a sudden people like, damn American cars. They don't work. They keep breaking down. They're horrible.
Yes.
And then you hear stories about people who are in the union getting paid, crazy amounts of money. Like, wait, what is going on here? So it's one of those things that's really interesting. It's one of those things, where I don't think you can have an easy answer, because like the knee-jerk reaction could be, hey, great, worker empowerment, fantastic. But then if you have to raise prices, and all of a sudden your Starbucks, I don't know how much is a cup of coffee at a Starbucks generally? Like $100, $50?
I only get it through Uber Eats, so that I only pay like a minimum of $100 per cup with all the fees.
Honestly, I think for their smallest cup, which is called a tall, figure that one out.
Yeah,
it's probably up to close to $3 now. I mean,
right.
5 years ago it was 2 and change.
So you're talking about the prices on the coffee, on the food, everything is going to go up. So that means they're going to pass it on to us. So with already it's inflation, they pass on, that's going to go higher. So it's tough. Same thing with Amazon. I guess with delivering the packages, with paying, you're going to have to pay more people in the warehouses and the fulfillment centers, the drivers. So of course they're going to pass it on to us. Bezos isn't going to say, yeah, you know what, don't worry, I'll take care of it. Let me open up my wallet. I'll take care of it. Yes. I don't see that happen. I see it more. We're going to have to pay more for it. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to play out. I do know this one thing. It does feel, and I've been writing a lot about this, for Forbes, it does feel that post-pandemic, the mindset has just changed dramatically. And employees expect way more out of their employers. they want to be treated empathetically. They want to be treated fairly. They want to be treated honestly. They want to get paid well. They want to have fair benefits. They want a work-life, balance. And if they don't, they're going to quit. And you have, month after month of 4 million people quitting. So that's not an idle threat.
Yeah, I have seen a lot of company, they try to attract employees like with different services. So it's like a different side of it. Yeah.
It's definitely a thing. And the company is sort of in a tough spot, really, because if they don't take care of their people, they're going to leave.
Yeah.
But if they take care of their people, then the prices go up. So wow, we're entering a very interesting time period now.
Absolutely.
But also, do the prices need to go up? Like with all this inflation, so many of these companies made record profits this year, and we're still seeing them inflate the prices, which are not necessary. And it's not like they're paying their workers more. So it's just more to benefit the people at the top.
You see the price, you notice this too, where the food is smaller. Like, so if you get, let's say, a bag of potato chips, maybe the price doesn't go up, but you have way less potato chips in the bag.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they pull that stunt too. And I wonder if this also kind of goes to something else we were reporting on, is this thing called, ghost coasting, cyber loafing, where people are kind of not quitting, but they're just slacking. They're kind of just doing the bare minimum so they don't get fired. I wonder if that's kind of, this is going to be a thing where, like, you know what, if you're not going to be paying me more, and I'm not really kind of keen on quitting right now because it's too much stress to find a new job, I'm just going to chill. I'm just going to do just the bare minimum. I mean, what do you think of that?
I think that's an equal turnout. If they're only willing to pay you the bare minimum, I think you should only have to put in the bare minimum.
Do you think that's going to happen a lot? Like, that's going to be the thing where people are just going to kind of, like, especially if you're working remote and it's hard to tell, or you're working hybrid and you're not sure like where the person is that particular day.
Yeah. And then with people doing the bare minimum, will it make companies amplify like surveillance too?
I think that to some degree, there's always been some of that in the workplace, whether, but pre-technology even, there are those that coast and do the bare minimum and just want to hold their job, and those that really care. And traditionally, those that went the extra mile, climbed the corporate ladder, became managers, looking at franchises. Eventually they could own their own, franchise. But I think it certainly will be in these days of social media. Word is going to spread real quickly. And if, the larger a company, some important percentage of the workforce starts to complain a lot, I think that's going to spread like a cancer, and that will be an effect. And where that's going to lead could only be not a good thing.
There's another, after effect on that too, is something called the Great Regret. In that, people, we were just talking about, okay, they're going to slack and coast and be disengaged and not be involved and just take it easy. But then others say, hell no, I'm getting out of here. I'm going to leave. I'm going to take another job. I can't take it anymore. Leave. And then within 3 months later oh my goodness, what did I do? Oh no, this is the worst mistake. And they call it the Great Regret, because like everything now you have to have the great something or other. It can't just be like a regret. It has to be the great, regret, the great resignation. So this is the Great Regret, where they're like, wait a minute, I was sold a bill of goods. They told me I'm going to be this, that, the other thing, and I'm not. Or I thought I was going to be working on this project. I'm not. Or it could be just expectations. You just thought the grass is greener. But what do you think about the Great Regret?
To me, it speaks more of like the manipulative hiring practices that people employ during the hiring process and the interview process. because a lot of people did say that what they were told would be like their jobs wasn't what happened. And I think it's because companies were so desperate to fill these seats that they necessarily didn't utilize like ethical hiring practices, I think.
So do you think some companies, because it's a hot job market, it's a war for talent, that they may, and this is gonna be shocking, but maybe they didn't give the full story when they told the person, hey, what to expect in your new job? So maybe they left some stuff out?
Yeah, and then there just wasn't the transparency. A lot of companies, I think, also didn't have like their return to office plans fleshed out. So then it could be once people were brought back, that's when their plans got solidified, and then it kind of felt like a bait and switch to them, when
Mhm.
really it's just things weren't worked out before they were brought on, and now it's like, oh, you have to return to the office, but you told me I was hybrid or remote, and yeah.
It's and it makes sense because you get the pressure, and you know how these companies work. It goes from the top down. So we got to fill the seat. We gotta get somebody because they're 3 people already left. The people who are here are gonna they can't take anymore. They're gonna leave too. So it's kind of like pushes them to just, yeah, don't worry, it's great. Yeah, you want to want to only come into the office one day? No worries, that's fine. You can do it. You want to be remote? Yeah, it's okay. It's fine. Oh yeah, you'll get a sign-on bonus. Oh yeah, you'll get a raise. And then you realize, yeah, it's not happening.
Yeah, then they don't realize that that also affects like the brand name as well. Because now like brand identity is more than just the services and the products you put out. It's all encompassing. It's how you treat your employees as well.
Yeah. And you know what else, talking about that, Jack, where you're saying, well, maybe they were misled a little. I bet you in some of the larger firms, they have whole teams of employment lawyers or within HR or wherever they are. So perhaps some of these conditions and promises will now become standard templates and offer letters, where they're going to talk about in office versus remote work and the hybrid. They're going to have it spelled out in an offer letter, and then the firms will be held to their word.
Yeah, it's almost like you have to maybe write your own when you go there. Okay, I want to make sure I understand it correctly. You have said that I could work, remotely, or I could work 2 days a week in the office, and here's my vacation. Almost reverse. You know how you get an offer letter from the company? Maybe it'll be the reverse, where to protect yourself, the job seeker will put, write up his or her own letter saying, I'm just want to make sure this is everything you said to me. Here you go. Please sign it to make sure that we're in agreement, which would be a nice turning the tables, huh?
Yeah, that's a really great point. Yeah, absolutely, would be very interesting.
Or can you ask a company to add it to the offer letter that they provide you?
It is so hard. It is so hard to get them to change the standard. Does it happen? Yes. But is it easy? No, because like the big bureaucracies, they don't want to change it, because if they change it, then it's like, okay, we got to go to this lawyer and we got to go to that. And then maybe we have to change it for the other people. And it's just, it's inertia. It's just easier to say, no, we're going to keep it the way it is.
Hmm.
Oh, you know what? On a side note, I've been rude. I should show you our digs here. So we're trying out different virtual reality backgrounds, different metaverse, platforms, and here, this is kind of like we have this office in the middle of the universe. So if you could look and you could see in the background, the planets just kind of out there, which is kind of cool. We have my 2 dogs, Buddy and Blue, Bored Ape. We have, let's see, I don't know what these thing guys are. I don't know if we're going to keep them. It's kind of, they really don't go with the decor here, but I'm not sure how come we had that on. And let's see here. Whoa, okay. And what else could we show? I guess it's really not that big of a, it's kind of nice, small, quaint office. I don't know what that thing is outside of our window. I'm not sure if we should be scared about it.
I think I can help you on that, Jack.
Yes.
When you were closer in, it showed more of it. It looks like it's a satellite robo DJ boombox.
Yes.
Those speakers are going, and then I saw like a hand touching some of the turntables.
Whoa, sorry about that.
So, yeah, so-
I moved my mouse. Oh,
Right.
no.
But yeah, that's what those speakers are. It's-
All right, whoever's watching, just close your eyes for a little bit so you don't get dizzy. Okay. So, yeah, and the reason why we're kind of doing this in the metaverse is that, the whole ethos of what we're trying to do in kind of happy and succeeding at work and really in the future of work. So we kind of want to explore, what's out there? What is the future of work? Well, what are different ways of operating? Could it be, remote, hybrid, digital nomad, or, just kind of chilling here in the metaverse. It's, some people could look and go, gosh, that's not really terribly professional. I wouldn't have any dogs in my office. And what's that DJ out there and the ape smoking a cigar? How dare you? So yeah, you could have that. But then you say, hey, you know what? Why can't work be a little fun? Right? Why can't you just have do something different just so you smile? Come in here and you see these goofy two guys on the left. I have no idea, like those little block creatures. At first, I thought that's kind of weird, but why not? Cheer things up a little bit. We have enough worry, enough anxiety, enough stress, enough fear in this world. We could use a little fun, a little humor, right?
If David Solomon can DJ, why can't you?
That I didn't want to say anything, but that is David Solomon DJing in the background. I didn't want to bring it up, but since you brought it up, that's him. Yeah. So if you're not familiar with Christina saying, so the CEO of Goldman Sachs, arguably the most top tier premier investment bank, while JP Morgan and Morgan Stanley probably would disagree, but of course, they're rivals. And in his free time, he DJs. I don't know how good he is or not. I've listened to some of his stuff, but I'm not an aficionado of, kind of that music, I guess. So, but I'll presume he's okay. And I'm sure it's not that people say it's okay just because he's, the head of Goldman Sachs and they humor him. I'm sure that's not the case, that they really enjoy his music.
Unless, of course, they're Goldman Sachs employees at the affair.
I'm sure he's not financing like any of the festivals or anything.
Right. So all right. So listen. So I just wanted to have a quick, quick meetup in the metaverse, and think about it. It's cool because we're talking about these serious topics, but yet because the environment is so chill, doesn't it make it a little different? It doesn't make it all uptight. You're able to kind of talk openly and freely about all these things without yelling at each other. Maybe that's what should be on, like, the cable news. Maybe they should be in like this trippy, weird, metaverse. So instead of like you put on cable news and you get maybe you actually get the news instead of people just yelling and screaming at each other because they're all uptight.
I find them to be cartoonish anyway.
see, they're cartoonish, right? But our avatars are cartoonish, but we're serious.
Yeah.
So it's just really wild. Now I can't see somehow on the right side. I can't get. I'm not sure like why it's not showing up. So you're missing part of the house here.
You can move forward a little bit with the arrow keys.
If you've been
Whoa!
close,
So you guys can go look outside of the universe there. I've never been out there.
wow.
All right, so let's do this. So yeah, I just want to introduce you to kind of what we're doing here. This is kind of, believe it or not, this is going to be the future of work. It'd probably be a little bit more sophisticated moving on. I hope you kind of get appreciation for it. And yeah, check out some of those pieces. You just Google quote, Jack Kelly, Forbes, end quote, and you can check out stuff and learn more about the Applebee's guy and how just tone deaf that was. To read about what's going on with Starbucks, with Amazon, with cyber loafing, coasting, slacking, the great regret. And this way be kind of all up to speed what's happening. So thank you. Any last minute, Mike, Guinati, Christine?
I think this is an exciting time, and it's we'll be able to see better within a short amount of time, I think, because now people are starting to return to the office amongst like the highest inflation and gas prices. So we'll see how people react to that.
That's the next thing we'll kind of do. Maybe we'll get some people who are going through it and interview them and get a sense of like what they're experiencing. Are they quitting because they don't want to do that commute because they're paying too much money in gas and they have to do something? So that'll be really interesting to cover.
Yep.
Yeah. Unadi, Mike, any other thoughts?
I don't know, like I'm excited to be in this metaverse for now. So yeah, I feel like we should do this more often. Yeah.
All right, done.
Cool.
Excellent.
You know what? I'll second that vote. This was the first time for me, attending one of these shows and in the metaverse. And I gotta say, I'm pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. Doesn't it, I kind of, be really honest here. I kind of like this better than when, let's say you're doing a LinkedIn Live and you see my face and I'm looking out, and it just, for some reason, it feels more liberating. It feels more comfortable where you could just talk without having to worry, how do I look? How's my hair? How's my background? How's the lighting? And I could just focus on a conversation.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Well, this is great. So hopefully everyone, you enjoyed this. Let me know what you think. We'll try some others down the, other kind of virtual reality and metaverses. And definitely keep, we're going to try to do something pretty much every day. And it's usually be like 12 and 1 o'clock, whether we're doing a LinkedIn Live or we have a really smart guest to talk about something. So just keep your eyes open, and thank you very much for watching. And what we'll do is we'll clean it up and repost on social media too. So if anyone missed it, you can see it again. So thanks everybody so much. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.